Hi, this is Rita Keeping It Real, and we're reading through the Bible using the Good News Bible. We're in the New Testament and Matthew's. We're on chapter 22, so we're almost finished with Matthew's. Um, Jesus is still in Jerusalem. He's still talking about parables. He's still preaching. Um, we're kind of looking at this with the Bible Project pictures. We're still here with the clash of the kingdoms, where Jesus' kingdom is clashing with the Pharisees and with the kingdom of the day. He's trying to explain to them about his kingdom and who he is as the Messiah. So here we go. Chapter 22. He's still teaching using the parable, and this is the parable of the wedding feast. Jesus again used parables in talking to the people. The kingdom of heaven is like this. Once there was a king who prepared a wedding feast for his son. He sent his servants to tell the invited guests to come to the feast. But they did not want to come. So he sent other servants with this message for the guest. My feast is ready now. My steers and prize calves have been butchered and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast. But the invited guests paid no attention and went about their business. One went to his farm, another to his store, while others grabbed the servants, beat them, and killed them. The king was very angry, so he sent his soldiers, who killed those murderers and burnt down their cities. The king was very angry, so he sent his soldiers, who killed those murderers and burnt down their cities. Oh, okay. Then he called his servants and said to them, my wedding feast is ready, but the people I invited did not deserve it. Now go to the main street. Oh, wow. And invite to the feast as many people as you find. So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, good and bad alike. And the wedding hall was filled with people. The king went in to look at the guests and saw a man who was not wearing wedding clothes. Friend, how did you get in here without wedding clothes? The king asked him. But the man said nothing. Then the king told the servants, tie him up hand and foot and throw him outside in the dark. There he will cry and gnash his teeth. And Jesus concluded, many are invited, but few are chosen. I hope he explains that somewhere down the line. Let me just see. Let me keep going. If not, I'm going to have to figure that one out. The question about paying taxes. Oh, so appropriate. It's April 4th. The Pharisees went off and made a plan to trap Jesus with questions. Then they sent to him some of their disciples and some members of Herod's party. Teacher, they said, we know that you tell the truth. You teach the truth about God's will for man without worrying about what people think because you pay no attention to a man's status. Tell us then, what do you think? Is it against our law to pay taxes to the Roman emperor or not? Jesus, however, was aware of their evil little plan. And so he said, you hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Show me the coin for paying the tax. They brought him the coin, and he asked them, whose face's name is on these? The emperor's. They answered. So Jesus said to them, well then, pay the emperor what belongs to the emperor, and pay God what belongs to God. When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. The question about rising from death. That same day, some Sadducees came to Jesus and claimed that people will not rise from death. Okay. Teacher, they said, Moses said that if a man who has no children dies, his brother must marry the widow so that they can have children who will be considered the dead man's children. I gotta look up where that's at. Now there were 7 brothers who used to live here. The oldest got married and died without having children, so he left his widow to his brother. The same thing happened to the second brother, to the third, and finally all seven. Last of all, the woman died. Now, on the day when the dead rise to life, whose wife will she be? All of them that married her. Jesus answered them, how wrong you are. It is because you don't know the scriptures or God's power. For when the dead rise to life, they will be like the angels in heaven and will not marry. Now, as for the dead rising to life, haven't you ever read what God has told you? He said, I am the God of Abraham. Ooh, ooh, ow. And the God of Isaac. The God of Jacob. He is the God of the living, not of the dead. Interesting. When the crowds heard this, they were amazed at his teaching. I'm amazed. The great commandment. When the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they came together. And one of them, a teacher of the law, tried to trap him with a question. Teacher, he asked, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the most important commandment. The second most important commandment is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. The whole law of Moses and the teachings of the prophets depend on these two commandments. Again, he did not erase the 10 commandments. He just said the whole law of Moses and teachings of the prophets depend on these two. The question about the Messiah. When the Pharisees gathered together, Jesus asked them, what do you think about the Messiah? Whose descendant is he? Is he David's descendant? He is David's descendant, they answered. Why then, Jesus asked, did the Spirit inspire David to call him Lord? David said, the Lord said to my Lord, sit here at my right side until I put your enemies under your feet. If then David called him Lord, how can the Messiah be David's descendant? No one was able to give Jesus an answer. And from that day on, no one dared to ask him any more questions. You're right. I understand. Like, oh, boy, was deep. Like, it's making me reading this, but I'm going to have to go back and study this, right? And look at the verses that this came from in the Old Testament and really try to understand it from a spiritual point of view, right? I'm going to keep going. Chapter 23. Jesus warns about the teachers of the law and the Pharisees. And you know what I just thought about? The way I just kind of talked about Jesus? You know, where I thought about the movie The Shack, where the mother called God Papa, where she had that type of relationship. And to me, it's like, yes, I know church people are like, oh, you're not reverent. Guess what? This is real life. This is real life. Do you have a relationship with this almighty, all-powerful God who came down in the flesh? Well, you know, you have to have a relationship with that entity the way you are. You can't come to it like the way you're not. Hey, this is the way I am. This is how I'm dealing with it. Right? That's how I look at it. Like, yo, this is how I talk. This is how I'm going to talk. And I realize, like, I look at people like Trump who say whatever they want, however they want. I'm that. I'm keeping it real. I'm that. I'm going to say whatever I want, however I want. Why not? Like, I guess when you get to this point in your life, you know, where you're, you know, at the tail end of it almost, you know, I'm 62. What? I may, if I'm lucky, have 30 years, right? It's like, what? I don't give a hoot what people say or think. Not one hoot, right? But when I said that, my spirit said stop and address it. Okay. Jesus warns against the teachers of the law and the Pharisees. All right. Then Jesus spoke to the crowds. Jesus is speaking out loud to the crowds in Jerusalem. to his disciples. He's talking to them too. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees are the authorized interpreters of Moses' law. Kind of like your preachers are. Where you think you're going to go in there and they're going to teach you something that you can't figure out yourself. Right? So you must... It's a picture of a man and a boulder. They aren't willing even to lift a finger to help. We'll see what that's about. So you're supposed to obey and follow everything they tell you to do. Do not, however, imitate their actions because they don't practice what they preach. Kind of like your preachers. They tie onto people's back loads that are heavy and hard to carry. Yet they aren't willing even to lift a finger to help you carry those loads. Think about, give me your tithes, give me your offerings, give me your money. But when you can't pay your electric bill, I can't help you. Keeping it real. They do everything so that people will see them. Look at the straps with scripture verses on them, which they wear on their foreheads and arms. And notice how large they are. Gotta read about that. Notice also how long are the tassels on their cloaks. They love the best places at feasts. They love the best places at feast, and they reserve seats in synagogues. They love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and to have people call them teacher, preacher, minister. You must not be called teacher because you are all brothers of one another and have only one teacher. And you must not call anyone here on earth father. That's pretty clear because you have only one Father in heaven. Nor should you be called leader because your one and only leader is the Messiah. The greatest one among you must be your servant. Whoever makes himself great will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be made great. Note it. Jesus condemns their hypocrisy. How terrible for you teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You lock the door to the kingdom of heaven in people's faces, but you yourselves don't go in, nor do you allow in those who are trying to enter. How terrible for you teachers of the law and the Pharisees, you hypocrites. You sail the seas and cross whole countries to win one convert. And when you succeed, you make him twice as deserving as of going to hell as you yourselves are. How terrible for you blind guys. You teach if someone swears by the temple and he's bound by his vow, but if you swear by the gold in the temple, he is bound again. How terrible for you blind guiders, you blind guides. You teach if someone swears by the temple, he isn't bound by his vow. But if he swears by the gold in the temple, he is bound. Wow. Blind fools. Which is more important, the gold or the temple? Which makes the gold whole? What makes the gold holy? You also teach if someone swears by the altar, he isn't bound by his vow. But if he swears by the gift on the altar, he is bound. How blind are you? Which is the more important, the gift or the altar, which makes the gift holy? So then, when a person swears by the altar, he is swearing by it and by all the gifts on it. And when he swears by the temple, he is swearing by it and by God who lives there. And when someone swears by heaven, he is swearing by God's throne and by him who sits on it. How terrible for you teachers of the law and the Pharisees. You hypocrites. You give to God 1/10, even on the seasoning herbs such as mint, dill, cumin. But you neglect to obey the really important teachings of the law, such as justice and mercy and honesty. These you should practice without neglecting the others. Blind guides, you strain a fly out of your drink, but swallow a camel. How terrible for you teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You clean the outside of your cup and plate while the inside is full of what you have gotten by violence and selfishness. Blind Pharisees, clean what is inside your cup first, and then the outside will be clean too. How terrible for you, teachers of the law and Pharisees. You hypocrites. 1 second. I'm going to be right back. Just 1 second. 1 second. Okay, I don't know how to pause this, so I had to just kind of. I'm sorry about that. But hopefully you were able to read some of this yourself. So where were we? Where are we? We're on there blind. I remember that. Oh, it flipped the page on me. How terrible for you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You are like whitewashed tombs, which look fine on the outside, but are full of bones and decaying corpses on the inside. In the same way, on the outside, you appear good to everybody, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and sin. Jesus predicts their punishment. How terrible for you, teachers of the law and the Pharisees, and preachers and ministers and people on the internet who are making money on teaching and whatever. You hypocrites! You make fine tombs for the prophets and decorate their monuments for those who live good lives, and you claim that if you have lived during the time of your ancestors, you would not have done what they did and kill the prophets. So you actually admit that you are the descendants of those who murder the prophets. Go on then and finish up with what your ancestors started. You snakes and sons of snakes. Just imagine a man coming in talking like this. He is like, I am not holding back. You snakes and sons of snakes. How do you expect to escape from being condemned to hell? And so I tell you that I will send you prophets and wise men and teachers. You will kill some of them, crucify others, and whip others in the synagogue, and chase them from town to town. As a result, the punishment will fall on you from the murder. As a result, the punishment for the murder of all innocent men will fall on you. For the murder of innocent Abel to the murder of Zacharias, son of Berchiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. I tell you indeed, the punishment for all the murders will fall on the people of this day. Jesus' love for Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you kill the prophets and stone the messengers God has sent you. How many times I wanted to put my arms around all your people just as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you would not let me. And so your temple will be abandoned and empty. From now on, I tell you, you will never see me again until you say, God bless him who comes in the name of the Lord. Wow. I have to go back and study some of the passages in those verses. Interesting, interesting, interesting. They're willing not to even, they're not, I get that. The last time I was in church that I can recall, other than a funeral, was with my cousin in, DC. I went to her church for something. It was something. And I will never forget it was this guy saying, stand up and greet your neighbor or something like that. And telling the congregation what they had to do. And I was like, I didn't stand up. I didn't look right. I didn't look left. I didn't give a hoot what he said. I didn't know why he thought I was going to. The people who were, and my cousin was there, so she kind of knew how I was. I was getting to that point where I'm not, hey, this ain't even real to me. This is a mess. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she's embarrassed. I don't remember. But I remember the people beside her were like, who is this heathen? What? Who did you bring up in here? I didn't care. I'm like, I'm not doing this crap. This is a bunch of, like, Mother May I. I'm not doing this. You can say whatever you want to say. I ain't doing it. You know how they say, stand up and greet your neighbor. And you say this, and the neighbor says, shut up. Like, I'm not doing none of that. And that was the last time I remember, like, going to a church service or something like that. Like, no, you don't want me in there. You don't. I know too much now to do that. I know too much. But this resonates with me, especially now when people are suffering and can't afford anything. And they've been giving all this money to the business of the church. It ain't nothing but a business. Paying lights and paying preachers. And to me, just to me, based on what I know. So there we have it. We are finished with a couple more chapters. We're almost at the end of Matthew's. So with that, until next time, it's Ryder keeping it real.